For this week's lesson, we will be discussing about principal roots and irrational numbers. This is anchored in our most essential learning competency, plotting irrational numbers up to square roots on a number line. To begin our discussion, let us define the term irrational numbers. Irrational number is a number that cannot be written as a fraction or ratio of two whole numbers. It is a decimal that goes on forever without repeating. The most common irrational number is pi, but we'll be looking at some other ones. It turns out that if we take the square root of most numbers, it will give an irrational number. But with a little knowledge using the number line, I hope it will be easy. For instance, let us plot square root of 5 on the number line. To plot the square root of 5, we should be ready where exactly on a number line this irrational number would fall. To make it easier, let us add something on a number line here. Let's start with 0. 0 is the square root of 0. 1 is the square root of 1. 2 is the square root of 4. 3 is the square root of 9. 4 is the square root of 16. 5 is the square root of 25. 6 is the square root of 36. 7 is the square root of 49. 8 is the square root of 64. 9 is the square root of 81. And 10 is the square root of 100. So that's the first thing that we should do. It makes the problem easy by putting it on the number line. So, where does the square root of 5 fall? We know that the square root of 5 is bigger than the square root of 4, but less than the square root of 9. So we know that the principal root of the square root of 5 lies between 2 and 3. And we can even be a little more specific with our estimate by knowing that the square root of 5 is closer to the square root of 4 than the square root of 9. So it's probably greater than 2 and a little less than 2 and 1/2. Therefore, when we plot the square root of 5 on our number line, it will lie here. Let us have another example. Let us plot the square root of 42 on the number line. Now to make it easier, let us add these values on the number line. So, where does the square root of 42 fall? We know that the square root of 42 is greater than the square root of 36, but less than the square root of 49. And we know that the principal root lies between 6 and 7. And we can even be a little more specific with our estimate by knowing that the square root of 42 is about halfway of 6 and 7. So it's probably greater than 6.5 or a little less than 7. So, the square root of 42 lies here. Ngayon naman, subukan natin sagutin ang activity number 1 entitled Plotting Square Roots. For this activity, all we have to do is to draw a number line and plot the following roots. So again, to make things a lot easier, let us add these values on the number line. So, let us start by plotting the first root, point t, which is equivalent to square root of 38. So, where does the square root of 38 fall on the number line? We know that the square root of 38 is greater than the square root of 36, but less than the square root of 49. So, it lies between 6 and 7. And as we know, that the square root of 38 is closer to the square root of 36 than the square root of 49. So probably it is greater than 6 but less than 6.5. So we plot it here. So this one is our point P. Next, let's have the other root, which is equal to the square root of 23. So where does square root of 23 fall on the number line? We know that square root of 23 is greater than is square root of 16, but less is square root of 25. And as we know, square root of 23 is closer to square root of 25 than square root of 16. And it lies between 4 and 5. So probably it is located greater than 4.5 but less than 5. So it will be plotted here. Next, let us have point M, having the root square root of 8. Square root of 8 is greater than square root of 4 but less than square root of 9. So we know that it lies between 2 and 3. And we know that square root of 8 is closer to square root of 9 than square root of 4. So probably it lies greater than 2.5 but less than 3. So it lies here. And let's have the last root, which is equal to square root of 89. So where does square root of 89 fall on the number line? We know that it is greater than square root of 81, but less than square root of 100. So it only means that it lies between 9 and 10. And since square root of 89 is about halfway of square root of 81 and square root of 100, then it might be slightly greater than 9.5 but less than 10. So it will be plotted here. Ngayon naman, subukan natin sagutin ang activity number 2 entitled, Where's that rational in the number line? So for this activity, all we have to do is to graph the numbers on a number line. So given the values square root of 35, 9/4, 3 and 83 hundredths, and square root of 96. So let us plot the first one, square root of 35. So again, to make things a lot easier, let us add these values on the number line. And since we know that square root of 35 is greater than square root of 25, but less than square root of 36, then square root of 35 lies between 5 and 6. And since square root of 35 is closer to square root of 36, then it may lie greater than 5.5 but less than 6. So, here is where square root of 35 lies. Next, let us plot 9/4. So since we are dealing with fractions, it will be easier for us to plot it on the number line by translating this into decimals. So 9/4 is equivalent to 9 divided by 4. And 9 divided by 4 is equivalent to 2 and 25 hundredths. Now, let us locate 2 and 25 hundredths on the number line. And we know that 2 and 25 hundredths is just 1/4 more than 2 on the number line. So it's located here. And here is where 9/4 is located. Next, let's have 3 and 83 hundredths. 3 and 83 hundredths is located more than half of 3 and less than 4. So here is where 3 and 83 hundredths is located. Now, let us plot square root of 96 on the number line. So again, since we are dealing with square roots, to make it a lot easier, let us put on these values on the number line. And since square root of 96 is greater than square root of 81, but less than square root of 100, then we may say that it lies between 9 and 10. And since square root of 96 is closer to square root of 100, then it may lie more than half of 9 but less than 10. So here is where square root of 96 lies. Ngayon naman, subukan natin sagutin ang activity number 3 entitled Plotting Rational Numbers. For this activity, all we have to do is to identify which point on the number line corresponds to given square roots. So again, since we are dealing with square roots plotted on the number line, and to make it a lot easier, let us add these values on the number line. So let's begin by identifying which point on the number line corresponds to square root of 2. We know that the square root of 2 is greater than the square root of 1, but is less than the square root of 4. Therefore, it lies between 1 and 2. And the point that lies between 1 and 2 is point E. So we will just simply write here, point E. Let's have a square root of 46. The square root of 46 is greater than the square root of 36 and is less than the square root of 49. So it only means that it lies between 6 and 7. And the point that lies between 6 and 7 is point S. So we just simply write here S. Next, we have a square root of 15. A square root of 15 is greater than a square root of 9, but less than a square root of 16. So it lies between 3 and 4. So, meaning to say, the point that lies between 3 and 4 is point A. So we will just simply write here A. Last, we have a square root of 85. The square root of 85 is greater than a square root of 81, but less than a square root of 100. So, it lies between 9 and 10. And the only point on the line that corresponds to that is point Y. So, we simply write here, Y. So, yun lamang para sa video na ito. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next virtual instruction.